When Jesus spoke to his disciples on the Mount of Olives, his words carried the weight of eternity. He was not offering vague philosophical insights or general life advice. He was issuing a prophetic warning with terrifying precision. In Matthew 24:15-21, Jesus described an event so severe that it would shake the very foundations of the earth. His message was not for the indifferent or the passive, but for those who would be alert, discerning, and ready to flee. This message was, and still is, a clear call to spiritual and physical urgency in light of what is to come. Matthew 24:15-16. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. This passage is not bound to the past alone. Though many scholars agree that the early Christians fled Jerusalem before its destruction in AD 70, heeding Jesus' warning and escaping to the city of Pella, this prophecy reaches far beyond that moment in history. Jesus is speaking about a future event, a literal, catastrophic fulfillment that will occur in the last days. This message is directed to those who will be alive during that time, those who will witness these terrifying events firsthand. Jesus' words are not hypothetical. They are a direct address to the people who will be living on the earth during the rise of the Antichrist and the unfolding of God's prophetic timetable. Jesus refers to a specific event, the abomination of desolation, first mentioned in Daniel 9:27, Daniel 11:31, and Daniel 12:11. It describes a blasphemous act of sacrilege in the temple of God. In the future, this event will occur when the Antichrist, a global political and spiritual leader, desecrates the rebuilt Jewish temple in Jerusalem, declaring himself to be God and demanding worship. This moment will mark a turning point in world history. It will be the visible, unmistakable signal that the Great Tribulation has begun. For those who will be alive and on the earth at that time, this will be the unmistakable moment of decision. Jesus doesn't say to wait and see how things unfold. He doesn't advise forming a plan or gathering supplies. He says, flee immediately, without delay. The original Greek word Jesus used, fugo, means to run away with urgency, to escape like one running for their life. It's the same word from which we get the English word fugitive. Let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. This is a direct and urgent instruction from Jesus that applies specifically to those who will be living in the region of Judea during the time of the Great Tribulation. Judea is the area surrounding Jerusalem, and Jesus points to this location with pinpoint accuracy, indicating that something catastrophic will take place there when the prophetic sign known as the abomination of desolation appears. This warning is not symbolic, it is practical and literal. Jesus is issuing a life-saving command to those physically present in that geographical area at that moment. When the abomination of desolation takes place, likely the Antichrist desecrating a future rebuilt temple in Jerusalem, those living in Judea will be in immediate and unparalleled danger. To those who will witness the desecration of the holy place with their own eyes, Jesus is saying, do not pause, do not turn back, do not hesitate. This is not a drill, it is your lifeline. For those living at that time, obedience will be the difference between life and death. The enemy's grip on society will be tightening rapidly, and those who wait may not get another chance to flee. Jesus paints a vivid picture of how urgent this flight must be. Matthew 24:17-18. Let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. To those who will be in their homes, at work, out in the field, or simply going about daily life, this is a wake-up call. If you are on your rooftop, Jesus says, don't even go back inside. Don't grab a bag. Don't secure your savings. Don't even get your coat. If you're out in the field, don't go back home. Just flee. Because the people alive during this time will not have hours or days. They will have moments. This message is tailored for those who will be present at the precise moment when the Antichrist unveils the abomination of desolation. To them, Jesus is saying, your response must be immediate and absolute. The moment you see it, flee. Trust me. Don't question. Don't analyze. Flee. Matthew 24:21. For then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. To those who will be left on earth after the rapture, to those who come to faith during the tribulation, to the Jewish people who finally recognize their Messiah, Jesus is speaking to you. The time you are entering will be the darkest in human history, a time of global tyranny, mass deception, and spiritual desolation. You will be faced with unspeakable choices. Submit to the beast or flee. Take the mark or become an outlaw. Families torn apart, society collapse under the weight of evil. Lawlessness will spread. Demonically empowered rulers will rise. The persecution will be so intense that it will rival the days of Noah and Lot. Believers who refuse the mark will be hunted. Those who worship the true God will be labeled as enemies of peace. The Antichrist will present himself as the savior of the world, but he will be a destroyer, full of lies and backed by satanic power. Matthew 24:19-20. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath.
In the context of the end times, fleeing to these mountains symbolizes not just a retreat, but a desperate, all-out escape from impending doom, where survival depends on swift action. Let's broaden our perspective and look at the Great Tribulation from a worldwide viewpoint. The Great Tribulation is not just a series of isolated events affecting a particular region. It is a global upheaval that will touch every corner of the earth. This period will unfold during the time when the Antichrist and the false prophet are at the center stage, wielding immense influence and power over the world. During this dark era, the mark of the beast becomes prevalent, a symbol of allegiance to the Antichrist. This mark, described in Revelation 13, will be required for anyone wishing to buy or sell, symbolizing the economic and spiritual control exerted by these forces of evil. The mark will be placed on the right hand or forehead, a physical sign of submission and worship of the beast, aligning those who receive it against God and His people. The Great Tribulation will also see the unfolding of the terrifying visions described in Revelation, including the rise of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. These horsemen represent conquest, war, famine, and death, each bringing a wave of devastation that affects the entire globe. As we reflect on these events, it is crucial to understand that the Great Tribulation is not just a future period of despair, but also a profound reminder of God's ultimate sovereignty and His plan for redemption. God's judgments, though fierce, are part of His larger plan to restore creation, to cleanse it from sin, and to establish His kingdom in its fullness. This time of intense suffering will ultimately give way to the glorious return of Christ, who will establish His reign of peace, justice, and righteousness. It will be a time when human suffering reaches its zenith, and yet it will also be a time of divine intervention. The conclusion of the Great Tribulation is not the end, but the glorious beginning of a new era marked by the return of Jesus Christ. As we look toward this monumental event, it is crucial to understand the profound significance of the Mount of Olives in biblical prophecy. Geographically, the Mount of Olives is a ridge situated just east of Jerusalem, across the Kidron Valley. It is part of the Judean region and holds great importance in the events and instructions given in Matthew 24. This location is not only central to the narrative of the Great Tribulation, but also to the culmination of world history, which will unfold in this very region. Therefore, we must pay close attention to what happens in this part of the world. Zechariah 14:4 gives us a vivid picture of this future event. "And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south." This prophecy reveals that when Jesus returns, he will descend upon the Mount of Olives, triggering a dramatic geographical transformation. A great valley will be created as the mountain splits in two. For believers, the return of Jesus is not just a future event. It is the ultimate fulfillment of God's redemptive plan for humanity. It is the moment when justice will prevail, when the brokenness of this world will be healed, and when the righteous reign of Christ will begin. Christians everywhere yearn for his return because it represents the consummation of their faith, the day when they will see their Savior face to face, when all suffering will cease, and when eternal peace will be established. The desire for Christ's return is not merely a wish to escape the trials of this world, but a deep-seated hope rooted in the promise of his word and the assurance of his love. Exalting Jesus is at the heart of this anticipation. He is the King of kings and Lord of lords, and his return will be a triumphant declaration of his sovereignty over all creation. The vision of Christ descending upon the Mount of Olives, his feet touching the earth as the mountain splits in response, is a powerful reminder of his majesty and the certainty of his reign. As we witness the unfolding of world events, it is vital to keep our eyes fixed on the Mount of Olives and the promise it holds. This region, steeped in biblical history, is where the final chapters of the world's story will unfold. The Great Tribulation will lead to the ultimate victory of Christ over evil, and his return will mark the beginning of his glorious kingdom.